What is a habit? It sounds easy, but a habit is a repetitive action that a person does automatically. Often they're not aware of it or unconscious about how they start doing this behavior or action. Most habits are single activities, but some are multiple things that they're doing. Certain habits can be really dysfunctional in regard to health outcomes, and I'll give you some examples of these. So it's really helpful to be able to help the patient discover if they have dysfunctional habits that are affecting their health or ability to follow your plan. You may screen for unhealthy habits in a number of ways. Ask the patient, are you aware of any unhealthy behaviors or habits that are affecting your sleep, your eating, your exercising, you're taking your supplements, you're being able to get lab tests, you're being able to do a treatment? Now, there is an assessment of habits under the limbic system questionnaire, so you can use that or you can ask them directly. Once you've identified unhealthy habits, it's important to discuss with your patient in regard to a few details. What is the unhealthy behavior? So here's an example. I eat after 8 p.m. Why is that unhealthy? Why do you think it is? Whenever I do it, I get more gas and bloating in the morning and all through the night. I wake up feeling nauseated. Okay. They might say also, I can't intermittent fast if I eat after 8 p.m. Then the next question is, what might trigger this unhealthy behavior? Or we talk about cue, C-U-E. What might cue you into the unhealthy behavior? Because there's a book called Atomic Habits where the author talks about cueing, which really means triggering. Okay, so a lot of patients, they don't know. They don't know what it is that's cueing or triggering them. Often it's uncomfortable feelings. We'll get at that. But there's other things that can cue them. So to better reveal the triggers, you want to say, where does this behavior occur? Okay, so this patient said, in the kitchen and in the TV room. You might say, can it occur anywhere else? Oh, yes, it could occur in the gym. I have a home gym. Can this occur if you're not in your home? The person said, yes, it can occur when I'm in a hotel or on a trip. So you've identified a lot of aspects, the environmental aspects of the unhealthy behavior, and you're understanding some of the triggers, okay? But you're not necessarily understanding all the triggers because you want to get all of them, because if you miss one of them, it may keep going on. One of the tricks of stopping an unhealthy habit related to health is changing the environment, okay? So in order to break the habit, we might ask them to change things that are cueing or triggering them. You might need more information about the trigger. Is there a specific time or range of times where you're most susceptible to eat late? They might say, yes, between 8 and 11. Any more specific time? Yeah, after 10 p.m. Okay, so you've identified even that more specifically. Then you might say, how can you minimize the time that you're actually in the environment that cues you to eat, or in the pantry, where the food is? And then here's a good one. Would you be willing to put up a sign? Now, this is an example of a sign. Stop in red. I have decided no eating after 8 p.m. That's good because it's in red, okay? And so it's pretty easy for people to make a sign or make it out of cardboard, whatever. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, but the sign has to be in the environment where they do it, like the kitchen, like the pantry, like wherever it is. Maybe multiple signs they're going to need. So all the triggers and cues need to be worked out to break an unhealthy pattern. Okay. Like you could say, hey, if this happens in the TV room, that's actually called an associated bad habit. So you might say, are you also indicating you have an associated bad habit where you watch TV after 8 p.m.? Why is that a bad habit? They might say, because then I don't go to sleep for a while. Or I will eat late while I'm watching TV. Okay, what's another associated habit? Smoking and drinking. That's a classic one. Okay, so then you might ask them, is there anything in that room that you could move into another room so you're not tempted to watch TV and then snack? That has to do with associated behaviors where they went into that room in the first place to do something. I went into that room to pay a bill. I went into that room to do a hair treatment. I went into that room to relax. Was there any other place you could go to relax? In other words, to get them out of the environment, the kitchen, the pantry, the TV room, where they're likely to do that behavior. That's changing the environment. It's also changing the cues. Okay. Like I said, you got to find the associated behaviors as well, behaviors that are associated with the initial bad health habit. Drinking soda after working out may be a bad health habit. So you might say, what else do you do together with this? Or how's this linked? If I've just watched the news, I might tend to eat. So then you find out that it's uncomfortable stuff. How do you feel when you watch the news? I get scared. Okay. And that tells you about a feeling why they're doing this. Oh, does fear activate you to want to eat? They go, I guess so. I wasn't aware of that. Or someone might say, if I start paying bills at night, I'll start eating. Or I can sit in the TV room and even without turning on the TV, I'll start eating. So you got to get all these associated cues. You also want them to know the outcomes from this unhealthy habit. So they might say, if I do eat at night, my abdominal discomfort starts first thing in the morning. Does anything make it worse? They might say, I'm not sure. Now, what's actually interesting about this, you might say, do you eat or drink anything first thing in the morning that makes your GI tract worse? Oh, yes, I drink coffee every morning. So this is actually, I don't know if I call this an unhealthy habit, but it's a health habit. I drink coffee every morning on an empty stomach, and they know that it causes them GI upset. So then you can use associated behaviors in their favor and your favor. You say, it appears that coffee on an empty stomach is upsetting your GI tract, making it more difficult for us to heal your GI tract. Would you be willing to do what we can bargain here? Would you be willing to do another behavior before you drink the coffee? I'm not going to take the coffee away, because they often say, are you going to take coffee away? No. But you often want to find out, why do you like to drink the coffee? Oh, it's a routine. I relax, whatever it is. Helps me be alert. Sometimes you're going to get an idea from what they're doing that they need to do something else, like sleep more, so they don't have to depend on the caffeine. So you might say, hey, would you be willing to try a healthy habit before the other behavior? In other words, I'll still let you drink the coffee, but could you try something beforehand? And say, what? What if you made your GI Revive drink, put that in warm water, and agreed that you're going to have that first thing in the morning, with or without amino acids, and then you can have your coffee? Would you be okay with that? And they go, well, I guess so. Do you think it could help my belly pain? Yeah, I think it could. At least you're going to be doing a healthy thing before you do this. Say, okay, let's try that for 2 weeks, see how it goes. Okay. Or you could have a healthy smoothie or some food at least 10 minutes before you start to drink the coffee. But one or the other. And of course, it depends if they're intermittent fasting and what this behavior is good. Another thing about associated behaviors. One of your patients does not take their supplements because they forget to take them with food, because they say, I'm too busy in the morning and at work to take my supplements. You ask them, is it just because you're too busy? And then they say, I guess I don't even like taking so many capsules, so I will often not take any of them or only take a few of them. That's an example. Like, they associated behavior just get busy and make that an excuse for not taking their supplements. Another example, ask them to put on a timer on their phone for 5 minutes after they start eating breakfast or lunch. When the timer goes off, they can agree to take 1/3 of their supplements. So this is a positive associated behavior. This is structured. Then say, okay, when they've eaten half of their food, ask them to take their betaine and digestive enzymes, and when they've eaten most of their food, to take the remainder of their supplements. This is a way for them to structure things with associated positive behaviors to get their supplements in with the meal, instead of saying, I can't do it because I'm too busy. And ask them to try this for 2 weeks. Often, if you have your medical assistant or someone call them, how's that going? That can reinforce the good behavior. Be very specific with what you want their associated good behavior to be. So sometimes we talk about this as stacking. If you find more than one beneficial behavior that your patient can do, you can talk to them about stacking 2 or more healthy behaviors. This term stacking is being used a lot. There's all these in vogue terms now. One of them is stacking. It just means doing multiple things. So here's stacking. A person could choose to not eat at night, but instead drink chamomile tea. But stacking could also be that they decide to tap at night, do EFT tapping, and drink chamomile tea, but they decide to tap on something that's been upsetting them. That's stacking two good associated behaviors. And then they end up wanting to do it because they like the chamomile tea or they like the chamomile lavender tea, and they're then going to do the tapping. Then I call this make a deal. Say, hey, would you be willing to drink 2 cups of healthy organic tea with green tea and milk thistle tea for every cup of coffee that you want to drink? And the person goes, wow, quite something. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Oftentimes when I suggest this to people, they go, yeah, I think I could do that. Because if you say, look, you want to protect their liver, they can drink the milk thistle tea, and the green tea can be helpful for cancer prevention or whatever you're using it for. It's just an example. Okay. And this can actually make it easier to either stop or limit the coffee because they know they got to drink 2 cups of green tea and milk thistle tea in order to drink the coffee.
Thanks for listening to Solving the Puzzle with Dr. Datis Karazian. Start your 7-day free trial at KarazianInstitute.com if you're a licensed healthcare practitioner ready to evolve your functional medicine practice. Explore over 300 hours of clinical training, masterclasses with leading functional medicine clinicians, and certification pathways. Or check out the Academy of Functional Nutrition and Lifestyle Medicine at AFNLM.com. Whether you're on the path to certification as a functional nutritionist or simply want to optimize your own and your family's health, our skill-building approach builds real-world competence from the ground up. And lastly, if you're dealing with chronic health challenges, visit drknews.com for self-paced courses that help you understand and address fatigue, brain fog, autoimmune conditions, gut problems, and more using evidence-based approaches. The content on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and share with someone who might benefit.